Having your code reviewed, judged, or rejected can feel hurtful. But collaborating with other software engineers is necessary and important to build high-quality software. So why do we feel like this? Why are we attached to our creations? It turns out this is mindset. This is something we can change. This is something we can improve. The code you write is not you, and it's important you don't fall in love with it, because it might get refactored, removed, changed, or even deleted. Feeling comfortable with code reviews and detaching your self-worth from the code you produce is crucial to your growth as a software engineer. So how do we get comfortable with it all? That's what this video is about. Part 1. Uncomfortable. Coding is a highly social activity. We should talk about code all the time. And whether you are fully bought into the extreme programming workflow of doing trunk-based development, code reviews, pair programming, test-driven development, or not at all, one way or another, your code should be seen and judged by others. Code ownership is the idea of a single person being the only one responsible for a certain part of the software. It is a bad idea. It is the opposite of continuous integration and of shared ownership. We're not here to love a certain programming language or to love a certain software component. We're here to deliver value to businesses and to users. Let's not forget that. Talking about code might get uncomfortable because your ego is in the way. Maybe you consider yourself very senior, and you might be too proud to see that you're about to make a mistake. Too proud to allow for the option that you're wrong. It might also be uncomfortable because you're scared of what others will think of you. Whatever the reason, it's preventing you from growing. It's keeping you stuck in the past, and it's time to adopt a new mindset, the growth mindset, as defined by Carol Dweck, which is one of the people who defined and researched it. Individuals who believe their talents can be developed through hard work, good strategies, and input from others have a growth mindset. A growth mindset is opposed to a fixed mindset, where you believe your talents are innate gifts. People with a growth mindset worry less what others think of them. They worry less about looking smart, so that they can put more energy into actually learning new things. You see this often in behavioral skills, as if behavioral skills are static. It's the innate qualities you were born with. They're unlearnable skills. The only skills that are learnable are the hard skills, the technical skills, this programming language or this other thing. But soft skills are unlearnable and they're innate gifts. This is false. This is not true at all. Every skill is learnable, behavior as well. The research around the growth mindset teaches us that we have to be open to input from others. There's scientific proof that it helps us grow faster and achieve more. When I learned about this, I decided to change my language, because the language I use influences my own thinking, my own mindset as well. When I don't know something, I started saying, I don't know this yet, instead of I don't know this. Because the moment I say yet, I'm implying to myself, this is learnable. This is something I might even aspire to do. I will get to it someday, not sure when, but it's learnable. And if there's a full stop, I'm implying to myself, it's static. It is maybe not even learnable. It might be learnable, but I'm not implying it to myself. And this is what slowly changes your mindset. I also decided to start to ask for more feedback on my code. Not only through a merge request where there's somebody placing comments in a system which I'm then reading later on, but I started actively talking about, hey, what do you think of the bigger ideas of the code? Would you have approached it in the same way? Because then you get verbal feedback and you can read the others' expressions and emotions, and you can talk about these things as well and get a feeling for how somebody is actually feeling about your code and the solution you picked. Part 3. It's not about you. Individual achievements don't matter. For companies, team is the unit of work. So we better get comfortable with a lot of collaboration. And yes, for introverts, this is harder. But unfortunately, you'll have to learn this anyway, because that's what companies are asking of you. Because it's the right thing to do to deliver more value. You need to develop a thick skin. I like the approach of attack the idea, not the person. It applies to both the giver of feedback and the receiver of feedback. As the receiver, you can assume the most generous interpretation of the words that the giver of feedback has chosen. Assume somebody is always talking about the code and not about you. You can tell yourself this. The code I write is not me. It's just something I produce. It's not me, it's not my own identity. I produce many bad things, and that's okay, because every time I fail, I can learn from it. Now I know what not to do. Now I know why this is a bad idea. If you don't fail with others in collaboration, then you might not learn. You might not know that this is a bad idea, or you might know that this is a bad idea, but you might not understand the why behind it. So you will not learn the reason. You will not prevent that mistake in the future. The only way to learn is to fail and to be okay with failing a lot. You are not the thing that is bad, it's the code that is bad. And speaking about that word, bad, I would advise everybody to, in the context of software engineering, to stop using the word bad, because it's not specific. What exactly is bad? Is all of it bad? No, of course not. A specific part you don't agree with, like this is tight coupling, whereas I would have seen loose coupling, or this is not the separation of concerns I would have picked. Okay, that's already a lot more nuanced than this is bad, because this is a different separation of concerns. Is one way better than the other? Maybe it is, but it's probably also dependent on which things you're optimizing for, which might be differences in team members you need to sort out as soon as possible. Specific things are easy to not take personally. Vague things and words like bad are very easy to take personally. Part 4. It's like receiving feedback. I've talked about this before on my video on feedback. One of the most important skills, the single most important thing when talking about feedback, is to learn how to receive feedback first. The moment you have a code review, somebody is giving you feedback, rule number 1 is to don't defend yourself, don't justify yourself, don't explain yourself, don't disagree. Instead, try to pause for a second, try to thank for the feedback and try to understand them better. Try to ask for an explanation, try to get to why the two of you are thinking about this differently. Try to understand what's being said, not just on the surface. Try to get to the meaning behind somebody's words. Explaining why you did something isn't helpful, because the only thing it actually achieves is it signals to the other, you're not listening to me. Instead, you should pause. You should ask for clarification, because that signals, I am listening to you. I am trying to understand you. Often, what you did is not simply good or bad. You're just optimizing for a different thing. You both may have different ideas about what quality is and what is important right now. Is coupling more important? Is separation of concerns more important? Or is actually performance really a thing here? And are you both having different ideas about what the weight of all these arguments is? My advice is to choose the most generous interpretation of what people are saying to you. If you can do that, you can learn. If you can do that, you can grow. You can grow faster than anybody else. Part 5. Seek discomfort. Fail in public because failing is learning. A while back I read this book, this short book called The Flinch from Julian Smith. It's a recommended read. It helped me face my own anxieties about many tiny things in life that shouldn't actually scare me, but that do scare me. This biological fear response that we have comes from a prehistoric era when we were actually in danger because there were dangerous predators outside. But right now we have this fear response for many tiny things, often even human interactions. But that shouldn't actually cause fear, because from talking to somebody about your code, you're not going to physically lose a leg or an arm. So this fear response is actually a lie. And the book helped me realize that. And we can only get through that by punching through this anxiety, by punching through this flinch, as the book calls it. And building the habit of pushing through this fear makes you grow. The next time, the fear will be a bit smaller. And if you do this 100 times, there will be no fear for this specific action anymore when, for example, we're talking about code reviews. The book states, outside of the comfort zone is where learning happens. And if you apply this to software engineering, the reason you may be avoiding getting quality feedback on your code is that it's outside of your comfort zone. But outside of your comfort zone is where learning happens. The fact that it scares you is another reason that you should do it, because you're not going to physically lose an arm or a leg. It's only a mental construct that it is actually scary and that you're afraid of it. It shouldn't be. So the moment you want to learn and you don't want the problem to become bigger in the future, you need to punch through that. I recommend everybody to read The Flinch and to start facing their fears on a regular basis, because we have way too much fears in our societies right now. So ask that question that you think might be a stupid question. Very often there's people in the room next to you, your peers, your colleagues, that have the same question in their head. They're also not asking it out of fear, but they're very happy if you ask it. It suddenly puts it out in the open. It makes the environment just a bit safer for you to fail, for them to fail as well. Showing this supposed weakness requires strength. Good luck. That's it. I hope this was helpful. I hope you liked it. If you have any thoughts or if you have a request for a future video, please let me know in the comments and subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.